Gio.
AJ, you know, to keep it brief, I guess, you know, in my efforts to do this business, I find no shortage of people that I can retain at $300 an hour.
Right.
What I want, what I need, and I think our community is lacking, are those repositories of knowledge that we can trust. Like, are you going to put together a list of lawyers that aren't going to just milk you right off the bat, or people who we can trust to write good business plans? Because that to me is really the bottom line. I don't know who to go to. And like I said, there's a bunch of law firms right there off Jamboree that I've already talked to, and they're like, yeah, just give us $1,000. And
it was Melvin's law firm over there, wasn't it?
I
think that's their going rate.
That's how it is.
And you know, my father's not a lawyer.
Yeah.
You know, we don't have that advantage that a lot of those kids at Palo Alto that go to Berkeley and Stanford and the ones they're talking about. We don't have that. That's why our communities are kind of the way they are.
It's a perfect point.
Let me just make one suggestion on that. When you're talking, with all deference to our attorneys here, but, you know, I've done this a long time, and with a lot of companies, and with really tens of law firms. And I think you could very easily do it without a law firm. I mean, I think until you get that final draft or a contract or something, you don't need it. You don't need to pay those fees. You don't need an attorney. I find that most attorneys are good at lawyering, but not businessmen, and not necessarily the guys that you can go to say, how am I going to be successful at either raising money or at running a business or putting together a plan to do a business. That's not one of your resources. I mean, it's been my experience, and I've talked to an awful lot of them, a lot of really good ones, and that's not where I don't get any advice there today, and I don't get any help there today in terms of raising money.
I agree with what you're saying. I mean, in order for someone to help you out, you have to know what it is that you want to do.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
With respect to attorneys, AJ Abraham is one of my firm's clients. The best thing that we will do is to be able to explain to you what an agreement means, what will happen in the event of X, Y, and Z, and how to best represent yourself, or how to best protect yourself in the event of any sort of emergency or any sort of contingency. That's really what we're about. If you want us to help you plan your business, it's probably not where you want to go. This is something that you'll want to do with yourself and your advisors and the team that you put together. One point, and I agree with you completely on that. One point that I did want to make and expand upon, I know a couple of folks said that some of the investors that they get are looking to take over their businesses or take control, usurp them of the control and the ideas that they may have had beforehand. And that may be the case, but I want to make a case that going out and getting investors, or at least seeking information related to getting investors, is very valuable. And what it will do is it will help you focus and figure out what it is you need. If you go to a bank, you may just go to a bank and just say, hey, banker, I want to start a business. What do I need to do? What do you need from me to be able to say, hey, this loan is yours, this loan is approved? That person, 9 times out of 10, if they're doing their job and they're good at their job, they will tell you exactly what it is that they look for, and if this person is a decision maker, what they look for before they decide, okay, let's try to fund this business. So if you want to work backwards from there, you can say, okay, this is what I need to figure out on my own time on the internet with my advisors, to be able to say, okay, I need to know how much money, and I need to know, okay, if it's a restaurant, I need to know what the locations are, what the foot traffic is near those locations, what my projections are, whatever it is that this person is looking for. This will help you focus that. You may not even go to that person to get your money, but it will help you figure out what it is that you need to do, what it is that you want to do, and ultimately, advice like that is priceless. And it's really valuable, I think, and in my experience, to get outside of your head, like you said, and get things on paper, get other people involved. Other people will ask you questions. You go through angel investors. I've sat in on angel investors, a number of them in LA, and they will grill you for a good 5 minutes, but they will ask all kinds of questions that maybe you thought of, maybe you hadn't thought of. But it's so important to get other people's feedback, and you know, other people will think of things that you may not have thought of. That's going to be very valuable to you. And with all that said, take all that with a grain of salt, but still do your thing. Like, you can't let, you know, everybody else, you know, take over your business. Even if you have to become accountable to them, you know, to say, okay, by this date, I'll have to figure this out, and by that date, I'll have to figure out this projection. But, you know, don't let them, unless you want to, don't let other folks just take over your control totally and just sort of take the driver's seat. That's not what you want to do. Eric?
You know what, I had a lot of thoughts, and what this gentleman said a second ago was really hit the nail on the head for me. But in the context of this movie, as an entrepreneur, one of the most frustrating things for me is that trust factor. You know, as entrepreneurs, we often have great ideas. We often have things that, you know, in the wrong hands could be pulled up underneath us. Technology-wise, we develop software. We do things that are really proprietary. And for me personally, it's tough for me to go out and speak to someone about what I'm doing, because I'm, in effect, in many ways, giving away what it is that I'm doing. So what kind of resources are out there for the people who would want to protect themselves from thievery of an idea, if there is such a thing, or you know, attorneys that are just, like you said, milking you for because we're focused on what we do as entrepreneurs. Many of us aren't business people, or I should say, many of us aren't prepared to be business people. We're sort of thrusting ourselves in that arena, but obviously we need those resources. How do we channel ourselves into those areas?
I mean, I don't. That's a great question. Great question. Daryl, go ahead.
In my experience, it's very difficult to pretty much put yourself in a box, simply because of the fact that when you're out seeking for funding, your information is passing through so many hands that you don't know whose hand it's actually going to. So to basically put yourself in a position where only certain people are going to be able to review your stuff kind of limits your opportunities if you're seeking some type of financial, you know, backing. And again, I've spoken to, there's numerous consultants out there who have very successful close rates that will actually provide your services to you at no charge. They will rewrite your business plan, and they will go out and raise money for you. The problem with those consultants is they're going to create a business plan to get the money, not the business plan for you down the road. Because the business plan is a changing, it's something that changes over time. Yeah, it's not set in stone. So you have to understand that, you know, where you start and where you finish and where you find yourself going may be two different places. It's just getting started. But going back to your question about trust, it's very difficult. Very difficult if you're in the business of trying to get in front of people to be able to raise money.
Yeah. One thing you might do on that with regard to where you can take the trust out of a little bit, obviously you're better off if you can get patents or copyright or that thing. That's the ultimate, but those are very, very expensive. But one thing you can do, and that we do, is have whoever it is that you're sharing your idea with sign an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement. And by having them sign that, those are not things that you can take to court very easily and defend yourself. But when a guy has signed one of those, he kind of knows that he has said, I'm not going to share this idea with anybody, I'm not going to do something. And it kind of helps people not to share your idea around and not to put your idea on the street if you have one of those. And I've got those kind of forms that you can fill in, and we sign to have everybody that goes beyond a certain level of information on our business plan has to sign an NDA.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
You're in technology right now?
That's programming.
Programming?
proprietary.
Right, right, right. So you understand how difficult it is to lock that down.
Yeah.
Because I'm in technology too. They can make one simple change, and now they've got something different. So again, when you're dealing with a piece of machinery or something that like that, that's different. But in our industry, when we're talking about technology, it's real difficult to say, this is mine because you used a piece of it to do what you did. Everybody's trying to see what people are doing. My competitors were not doing what I was doing 10 years ago, but they're doing it today. That's an example of it. That's the real world that you live in technology. If something's working, they're going to jump on the bandwagon, and you can't do anything about it. You just have to stay ahead of it.
I would also say that you probably need to start within your own network of family, friends, close acquaintances, and kind of start there, because that's where you find, you know, the people, that's where you know the people who you can trust most, and you start there and allow them to guide you into finding those other resources. But I have to say that it really, what they said at the beginning, that is something that's going to happen throughout businesses. I know Ron, for a fact, has had several business ventures that have gone wrong. That's something in our own business. You know, I remember, I think when Darryl was there, you know, there was this lady that, you know, we were trying to, you know, my wife wants to help everybody and, you know, trust everybody, and went into this agreement and had this non-disclosure agreement, and, you know, after we got, you know, next thing you know, contract's gone. You know, $300,000 and some of contract just gone. So it's something that's just going to have to happen. You have to prepare for it, and it's just part of doing business. There's no one you can trust, really. But again, it's up to you to kind of develop that, I think, in my opinion, within the network. My wife has somebody that she's known for a long time. She calls a coach. He's a mentor, and she checks with him for everything that she does, or most thing that she does. Hey, you know, who do you think can help me do this, or who do you think? So you find somebody within your network that you can trust there, and that's what I would say.
And we have about 10 more minutes. I'd like to do a hard stop at you know, a few minutes. No, absolutely. We have 10 more minutes. So I want to, if you got questions, let's get them going so that, you know, we can use the panel. So I saw you on there. We got to make sure we get Ron. James. Oh, okay.
How about a certificate of non-competition too? Would you have that signed too with IP? Okay.
Usually you can put those together in one form, you know, a non-circumvention and NDA, non-disclosure.
Ron, I have a question, because the NDA is a big point. Do you think it's advisable to, if you are pitching investors, to really show that? Because everything I've heard from every investor is saying, don't put an NDA in front of me because I won't sign it.
That's what I
So, you know, this is one of those things where we want to educate the entrepreneur to know how do you do this, you know, in a sophisticated way.
And that's actually a good question and a good comment, because the level of people that you are now talking to at the VC level are not going to sign an NDA because they have too many ideas that come to them. But when you're dealing with friends and family, like Daniel was talking about, then I would have them do an NDA. And we have most of our guys sign an NDA. I'd probably get an NDA, unless you're at a real sophisticated level of investor, they will sign an NDA. They like to kind of be, so I think the lower level investors, which are the people you're worried about,
the friends and family.
A VC guy is not going to steal your idea and take it out there. I mean, those guys are way too busy to